I'm Johnny Ashley in the Hood in the Woods, your neighborhood backwoods history and travel channel. You can find me on Facebook as The Real Hood in the Woods and on Instagram as Abandoned in Appalachia. Now, if you'd like to help me out and help yourself out too, you should get yourself the official copy of the Hood in the Woods book, Volume 1 and Volume 2. The link will be in the description. The building is now owned by Ashby Berkeley, and he's renovating it. In the description box of this video, I want to have a link to his nonprofit if you'd like to help him out. Today we are in Monroe County, West Virginia at Sweet Springs Sanitarium. This is Pete's Mountain. On the other side of Pete's Mountain is Craig County, Virginia. And on this side is Monroe County, West Virginia. On this mountain is a spring that produces carbonated water that is 75 degrees year-round. The water has so much calcium, magnesium, potassium, and zinc that by today's standards it can be called a health drink. In 1774, James Moss found these springs. He was the first European to see these springs, and he claimed this land. Later he gave it to William Lewis, and William Lewis moved his family up here. By the 1790s, Mr. Lewis had built a hotel out of stone and several log cabins. It totaled 72 rooms, and guests flocked to drink the healing waters. Not much is left of the old hotel except the chimney. The hotel saw a lot of celebrity guests, like George Washington and his wife Martha. Constitution signers would come and stay here, like Patrick Henry, the Give Me Liberty or Give Me Death Patrick Henry. Another one was James Madison. He would later become our fourth president. In 1805, James Lewis began dividing up his land. He gave 400 acres to his son John, including the land that Sweet Springs sits on. John Lewis had been a colonel with a Virginia militia during the Revolutionary War. After the war ended, he became a doctor. His dad had wanted him to build a town around Sweet Springs, so like a good son, that's what he did. This is John Lewis's house, but all that's left is his burnt out shell. This is the first jail that was built in America west of the Allegheny Mountains. John Lewis built the Grand Hotel in 1839. Local legend is that Thomas Jefferson designed the hotel, but more recent research shows that it was Thomas Jefferson's co-worker, William Phillips. The front of the hotel is 250 feet long. It's currently 110,000 square feet. The dining room is 160 feet long, and there were 36 bedrooms upstairs. This is the bathhouse. It was built in 1830, but unfortunately part of it was dismantled so the bricks could be sold. Also, there is a monster snapping turtle that lives in here. This bath is filled by the natural spring. The water flows in over here, and the excess water flows out over here. The buildings behind me are guest houses. They were called the Seven Sisters because there were 7 of them. There's one more that I can't fit in this shot, but 3 of the buildings no longer stand. The trend of going to Healing Springs resorts was started by Dr. William Burke, who had visited the nearby Red Sulphur Springs. When he arrived, he was weak and frail, but when he left, he was fit and strong. He subsequently published a book about his experience in the Healing Springs of Western Virginia. You gotta remember, this is before the Civil War, so all this was still Virginia. Red Sulphur Springs was eventually purchased by Dr. Burke, and is also in Monroe County. In his 1846 book, A Guidebook to Healing Springs, he said that patients could live to the fabled age of a crow by bathing in the Sweet Springs. Before the Civil War, the hotel's popularity boomed. In total, 800 people could be housed at the resort. The stream of celebrities continued. The rich and powerful came here to rub shoulders with each other. Chief Justice John Marshall stayed here, as well as Representative, Senator, 7th Speaker of the House, and 9th Secretary of State, Henry Clay. In all, 6 U.S. presidents would vacation here. In 1852, John Lewis was in so much debt that he sold the hotel to Oliver Birney. Mr. Birney divided up the land between himself, his brother Christopher, and Senator Caperton. Combined, the 3 of them formed the Sweet Springs Company. The resort closed during the Civil War, and in 1864, the Northern Army camped here. It reopened after the war, but never to its previous glory. They still had celebrity guests coming, like Queen Victoria, General Beauregard, and Robert E. Lee. Robert E. Lee was such a firm believer in the healing power of the natural springs here that he would send his horse Traveler here for treatments. The end of the Civil War marked the beginning of the boom in the railroad industry. Part of that boom consisted of hauling coal out the West Virginia coal fields, but Monroe County doesn't have any coal. Therefore, no train tracks were laid here. The closest stop of the Virginia-Tennessee Railroad was in Salem, Virginia. The modern Road 311 is the route that people used to take up here. As travel by rail became more common, fewer guests began taking the long road trip here. The resort closed in 1928, and multiple attempts to reopen it failed. In 1941, the resort was owned by Mr. Taylor of Roanoke, Virginia. That year, he sold it to the state of West Virginia. The state remodeled it, and they used it as a tuberculosis sanitarium. That's when they added these 2 big wings to it. In 1945, it became the Andrew S. Ronan Home for the Elderly. He was a war hero from Monroe County, and he had died a few years earlier in 1942. He had earned the Distinguished Service Cross during the Spanish and American War, and odds are, most of the residents of the nursing home had known him personally. The nursing home closed in 1993, and the state gifted the property to the county. The county planned on turning the building into a drug rehab. They took out a loan for $1.2 $2.3 million. But the rehab never happened and they defaulted on the loan. The land, down to 23 acres, passed through multiple hands, but the hotel remained unused. Raymond Herlong was hired by one of the owners to renovate the hotel. Coincidentally, Raymond's great-aunt had been married to John Lewis, who built the hotel originally in 1839. In 1997, Ashby Berkeley got Sweet Springs added to the historic registry. In 1986, he had bought another Healing Springs resort. He renovated it, and he operated an inn there until 2001. Then he sold it to the state, and they turned it into a female prison. In 2015, he bought Sweet Springs, and he's in the process of restoring it. He needs a lot of help. So like I said, I'm going to have a link to his nonprofit in the description if anyone wants to throw him a couple bucks. Thanks for watching my video. Hope you liked it. If you did like it, you need to hit the like button and hit the subscribe button. Don't be watching my stuff for free. If you'd like to see some more of my videos, I'm going to have my Smithfield plantation right here. This is in Montgomery County, Virginia, and it's going to be the birthplace of 3 Virginia governors. Here, we're going to have their cousins in Bristol, Virginia. And up here, I'm going to put Buck v. Bell, the history of Virginia's eugenics law. And y'all go ahead and pick one anytime you want, because I got stuff to do. I got to go hit the road. I got to go pick up groceries before I get home. Come on, are you still looking? Pick one already.